The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Standing by the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple there whom he loved, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his home. The Gospel of the Lord. Yeah, it's a set of readings that even if you have your missal, you're trying to follow along, you don't have them probably, or you might have them, but they're in a spot of the book that you weren't expecting to read from this morning. So, but these are the readings for the feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and we see, in that first little reading that we have from the first book of Kings, chapter 18, we're introduced to Mount Carmel as a place where Elijah, the great prophet, is going to purify Israel from their idolatry. It's really interesting. I think, for me anyway, it's always a profound and provocative theme, the purification of God's people for the purpose of their praising God with everything they've got, living totally for God. There's a great line in the 18th chapter of 1 Kings where Elijah says, he says to the people whom he has gathered on Mount Carmel, he says, "How long will you straddle the issue? Will it be God, the true and living God, or will it be Baal, right? Will it be the counterfeit gods?" And then there's a great scene. I won't get into it. It's too early in the morning, but it's a great passage. Read it and have in mind the purification of Israel for God's purposes. This is us, right? We are the new Israel, and we have to be purified Sunday after Sunday for the purposes of God. And that's what we're doing here. Every celebration of the Eucharist is a celebration of the true and perfect sacrifice of Christ Jesus. And we represent it here at the altar so that we can be caught up in it ourselves, and it becomes in that way a vehicle of self-sacrifice, right? It becomes a vehicle of our offering our hearts, our minds, and our lives whole and entire to the true and living God. And it releases us from our slavery to counterfeit gods, and I would say even to the vain pursuits that would otherwise preoccupy our lives, right? The pursuit of money, power, pleasure, comfort, and any number of things, right? We want to take on for ourselves the pursuits of God, the pursuits of Christ Jesus. And in this context, it's easy to see why it is we honor and revere and uphold the example and the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Yeah, not just that little connection at Mount Carmel, right? Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and the purifying action of Elijah, but also the fact that she is first and foremost the one who is totally given over to the plan and purpose of God. I'd like to propose as well, and I don't know. When we celebrate Marian feast days, especially when we celebrate the feast day of our parish, I'd like us to grow in devotion for Mary. I mean, I personally, through the celebration of this feast, I personally want to grow in my devotion for Mary, and especially my filial devotion as her son, right? And we see in the little gospel passage that we have that Mary is standing at the foot of the cross with some of the other women, and there's John, the beloved disciple, and he is then to take her, at Jesus' command, he is to take her into his home, right? And the relationship that she is to have with the beloved disciple is that she is to be his mother. So if we want to be numbered among the beloved disciples of Christ Jesus, then we want to have Mary as our mother. I say we in fact do have, no matter what our perspective, our position on it is, whether we want to have Mary as our mother, I don't know why you wouldn't, but she is our mother, right? If we who want to be numbered among Jesus's beloved disciples, and we are his beloved disciples, we have Mary as our mother. I want to say she is at the head of the pack, right? And I want to look at that in just a couple of ways. One, we see her role in John's gospel, right? Her appearance prior to her being at the foot of the cross has her kicking off the first of Jesus' 7 signs that reveal the glory of God. And the first is the wedding at Cana. And she says in the end to the waiter, do whatever he tells you, right? She has this kind of agitating moment with Jesus where he says to her, my hour is not yet come. And she takes it all in, right? Good mother that she is. Okay, son, I'm going to go and tell the waiter to be prepared for you to do your work because I know that it's coming, right? So there's this sense of Mary is, I don't want to say agitating, like there's not a negative connotation, but she's agitating there for the will of God, for the purpose of God. And she knows that she has this role to play in the divine drama that is unfolding. And she plays that by going directly to Jesus. Son, they've run out of wine. Right? She knows that it's that simple kind of sensitivity to even what compassion, what love demands in that situation that will then begin this unfolding chain of events that will bring God's plan to completion. So Mary is right at the heart of that. And then we see her here at the cross. As one of my favorite theologians has said this. He's labeled Good Friday, or he's named Good Friday as the day the revolution began. Yeah, it's significant because it's Good Friday. It's Jesus' death that defeats death. It's Jesus' death that overcomes the power of the idols and materializes or brings into being the power of love triumphing over death. And the movement then is launched because nothing at all can stop the plan of God from progressing. And who's there when it happens? Mary. Mary is there when it happens. And this is, again, her significant role right at the heart of the movement. And I think it's important then to see that this movement gets started as a fully human movement. Right? This revolution that Jesus kicks off in his death is a fully human movement. It's meant to restore all humanity. We see there at the foot of the cross, woman and man. It's significant, right? That woman and man is the place of the first transgression. And here, woman and man is the place where the revolution to undo that work of destruction takes place. And advances and is kicked off, right? Is moved forward. So this is us. This is us today. We realize that we are in God's plan. We're in this revolution that was begun that day of the cross, and we have in our company Mary, who gave herself over to the will of God in such manner that she was able to bring Christ to birth. She was able to carry the Christ child. And she was able in her whole life, in her whole dedicated life, we see, to bring Christ to birth again in his body, the church. And we entrust ourselves to her and to her motherly care and intercession, especially this day. And we ask that just as in her the plan and purpose of God was realized, so too for us who are her children, the plan and purposes of God may also be realized, not only for ourselves, but for the people, our town, and everyone we encounter, that we can bring God's love to life as well.